Hello. I'd like to discuss the news. King Charles's brother was taken down by Epstein, and I believe King Charles is just as much as guilty as his brother Andrew. But because he's the king, and because of the fallout that would bring on England and the world in general, he has been protected. He has been shielded from any kind of impropriety. But the one thing I want to say, when you saw him on the video today, which is today is the 28th of April 2026, he was here on a visit to the United States and hobnobbed with Trump, his fellow conspirator. And look at his hands. His hands are extremely swollen. And not one hand, both hands. And that's a sign of cannibalism. When you eat human flesh, there are problems with that, and it shows up in this way. And you know, and that's enough of that. But the the Epstein victims, they were also on the news today, and it's funny. The one part that they discussed on the news, they let the brother of the girl that killed herself, that wrote the book against Andrew, and there was a big sign that said, you know, girl's brother, and because he didn't want to be seen as he was an Epstein victim. His sister was, he didn't want that. And they didn't let the victims talk. They've never really let the victims talk because I think they're afraid of the bones that are going to come out of their mouth. And these perpetrators are able to deny what they've done, but the victims are not allowed to accuse people of doing something wrong. It's a one-sided deal, and it's very unfair. The victims want to be heard. The victims need to be heard. The perpetrators can't be redacted as it comes out of the victim's mouth, which the Epstein files have all been redacted, but the victims can clear that up. And they're not given the time. They're not given the news time. It's not that it's not newsworthy. It's just that the people they're going to talk about own the news. They own everything. And they can stop that video from ever hitting the internet or the TV. And that's what they're doing. Right now, as we speak, as I speak, that is what is happening. The victims are being silenced. That girl did not commit suicide. She was done with. She was taken care of for writing that book. And probably because it got too close to King Charles, and I think the king uh, killed Diana without a doubt. Uh, she saw things and knew things that they didn't want out there in the public. And she was very public. She was very out there. Anybody would have interviewed her in a New York minute. And they knew that, and they couldn't handle it. They couldn't deal with it. It was too nerve-wracking for them. And ending her was the way to get rid of those nerves. And they could sleep better, you know. But, just people in power, they're in power for a reason. They got there for a reason. If they were born into it, they were groomed, they were educated in that way that, you know, they're not going to rock the boat. They're not going to make a change. They're not going to change things. And, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to get it from them because they love their life. They love their privilege, and they're not going to give it up to save somebody that's save anybody, even if it's somebody that's privileged like them. They're not going to save anybody but themselves, you know. And It's just sad. It's true, but it's sad. And that's the life we live. That's the world we live in. And I didn't make it this way, and neither did you.